Land. Why Ken's wrong. Land is where Ken Wheeler tells us he's invested most of his money. Find out why his choice of unserviced, remote, vacant lots has been penny wise and pound foolish, and why his viewers should avoid hiring him as a paid land scout. Middle-class baby boomers owe the bulk of their prosperity to investing in real estate. In most cases, this refers to their most valuable asset, their own home. Home prices have appreciated dependably over the past 5 decades. Once a mortgage is paid off, homeowners free themselves of the burden of monthly house payments. Many parents and grandparents view the equity in their homes as their legacy, so home ownership is a sound investment for most families. Ken Wheeler offers a very different view toward investing in land. The angry photographer tells his viewers that he sold off half of his hoard of gadgets to fund his purchases of what he calls raw land in remote, depressed parts of eastern Kentucky, which has been the most economically disadvantaged region in America for generations. He even offers his services to help viewers scout out these kinds of low-priced, remote, unserviced properties as investments or for disaster preparation. This is a terrible financial move for many reasons. The main problem with buying unserviced rural land as an investment is the lack of demand and liquidity. There are very few buyers looking for properties in locations with no economic development, infrastructure, or amenities. This makes selling the property difficult. Also, governments impose capital gains tax on investment properties. This cuts into any appreciation in value and complicates selling it. Land doesn't automatically increase in value. Land prices rise in response to economic activity, population growth, urbanization, and infrastructure projects. Unless those things happen in an area, land prices will barely keep pace with inflation. Often, this kind of cheap, unserviced land in depressed regions even depreciates in value. Owning vacant land also involves holding costs like property tax, maintenance, and land management fees. The money sunk into bargain-priced, isolated land could be invested in other, more profitable assets that yield income, capital gains, or both. So as always, the Theoria Apophasis host is being penny-wise and pound-foolish in his financial commentary to his viewers. Mind you, return on investment isn't Kentucky Ken's real motivation for snapping up these cheap, isolated land parcels. As he often explains, they're primarily part of his personal disaster preparedness strategy. This rationale is even more wrong-headed. In the event of a societal collapse, these remote, vacant properties would be useless to a survivalist. These land parcels don't offer any potable water, food, or any other kind of infrastructure. Without reliable access to food, water, and shelter, trying to endure a major disaster stranded on raw land in the middle of nowhere would be a momentous blunder. It's a scenario where the living would envy the dead, and not for long. The owner of an isolated tract of vacant land in a depressed, unpopulated area would find themselves coping with threats and hostile individuals with no protection. One lone man, even armed, wouldn't stand a chance. The isolation of these properties would leave the property owner in the lurch without community networks to share resources, skills, or knowledge. The geographic distance between Ken Wheeler's properties and essential services, medical facilities, and supply chains is another fatal flaw in his plan. In a genuine societal collapse, transportation systems would be disrupted. Roads would likely be destroyed or impassable, making it impossible to get medicines, food, or essential supplies. It would also be impossible to evacuate the property as conditions changed unexpectedly, as they always do in disasters or chaotic social disruptions. Effective disaster planning takes access to resources, community support, collective security, and mobility into account. As we discuss under Preparedness Why Ken's Wrong, these survivalist tactics are all part of a fantasy in which Kentucky Ken is finally able to fire his treasured cache of firearms in anger, apply his supposedly superior wisdom and intellect, and ultimately prove his countless rational critics wrong about himself and his various ill-conceived notions. Concerns also exist around Ken Wheeler's paid land scouting activities, being neither a licensed real estate broker or sales associate in Kentucky or anywhere else. Offering this service to his viewers seems sketchy, to say the least. Many better investment options could have generated substantial returns and even provided Ken Wheeler with a comfortable retirement. Instead, when the time comes to recover the money he's tied up in these undesirable properties, he'll face enormous delays finding purchasers, tax issues, red tape, and other complications. He could very well find himself losing money on the transaction, and so could anyone foolish enough to listen to his financial commentaries or land scouting recommendations.